A single dad comforts a lonely girl in a wheelchair, unaware she's a daughter of a powerful CEO. What begins as kindness unfolds into something breathtakingly human and unforgettable. The airport had the hush of snowfall, though no snow had fallen. Outside the wide glass windows, the runways stretched gray and endless beneath a sullen winter sky. Planes moved like quiet beasts across the concrete, their blinking lights the only signs of motion in the stillness. Inside Gate 47B, a girl sat perfectly still, her pink gloves folded in her lap. She couldn't have been more than 9. Her back was straight, almost too straight, like someone had taught her to take up less space than she needed. Her legs, tucked motionless beneath a thick lap blanket, didn't shift once. The wheels of her motorized chair gleamed dully in the overhead light. People passed her without seeing her, rushing to their gates, talking into earbuds, wheeling their lives behind them. 10 gates away, a man sat with a child asleep against his shoulder. His name was Eli Mercer, and this wasn't where he wanted to be. Not really, but flights had been grounded due to wind over Chicago, and now they were waiting, him and his son, for a connection that might not come until morning. Eli wasn't used to waiting. He was used to working with his hands, moving heavy things, solving problems. A mechanic by trade, a father by fate. Life hadn't left room for much else since his wife left 3 winters ago, left a note and a gold bracelet on the counter, and drove toward the ocean. He hadn't heard from her since. His son, Noah, age 5, snored quietly against him, mouth slightly open, cheeks flushed from too much apple juice. One hand clutched a yellow crayon, the other still loosely holding a drawing, a lopsided rocket ship with the words "to the moon and back" scribbled beneath. Eli didn't have the heart to tell him the moon didn't take passengers anymore. He adjusted his coat, careful not to wake the boy, and scanned the gate again. That's when he noticed a girl. Still, alone, watching the sky like she expected it to open and take her somewhere better. He didn't move. He didn't rush to her. He just watched. Minutes passed. People came and went. An old man spilled coffee on his shoes. A couple argued softly in the corner. A baby wailed 2 gates over. The world moved, and the girl didn't. It was Noah who broke the silence. "Dad," he mumbled, blinking sleep from his eyes. Why is she all by herself? Eli followed his gaze. The girl hadn't shifted, hadn't even looked up. "Maybe her folks are nearby," he offered quietly. "She looks like she's waiting for someone." Noah said. "Aren't we all?" Eli whispered. But something in Noah's small, furrowed brow made Eli sigh. The boy had always noticed what grown-ups missed. He stood, lifted Noah onto his feet, and dug around in their backpack until he found a juice box. "Come on," he said, nodding toward the girl. "Let's go say hi." They approached slowly, not like people trying to fix something, more like travelers approaching a sleeping animal. Cautious, gentle, quiet. "Hi," Noah said first, holding out the juice box like it was an offering. "You thirsty?" The girl looked at them, startled. Her eyes were the color of storm clouds over a frozen lake, wide, unreadable, but impossibly deep. She said nothing, just took the box, nodded once, and punctured it with a straw. Eli crouched beside Noah, his knees aching from too many years on hard floors. "You here with someone?" he asked softly. "My mom's working," she replied, her voice as small as the space she took up. "You waiting long?" "Long enough." She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She just was. And Eli knew that feeling too well. "I'm Eli. This is Noah." There was a pause. "Ivy," she said at last. Noah sat cross-legged on the floor. "I made a spaceship. Want me to draw you one?" She tilted her head slightly. "Only if it has pink stars." "Deal." He started sketching, tongue peeking out in concentration. Eli stayed quiet, watching. The girl, Ivy, wasn't fidgeting, wasn't restless, but her fingers gripped the arms of her chair just a little too tight. "You travel a lot?" he asked. She nodded. "Alone?" Another nod. "That's brave," he murmured. Ivy didn't respond, but something shifted in her shoulders. He noticed then the calluses on her palms, the tiny scars on her knuckles. This chair wasn't new to her. It was part of her. I used to fix planes, he said, more to the air than to her. The old ones, mostly. Loud, heavy, noisy guts. You could see everything working, nothing hidden. Why don't you anymore? They stopped needing me. She looked at him. Really looked. That's dumb. Everyone needs someone. He blinked. That's when the announcement crackled through the speaker. Another delay. Another hour. Noah held up the drawing. Here, pink stars. Like you said. Ivy smiled. Just a little. And Eli, without thinking, said, Want to see the planes better? The big windows are better over there. I can't reach the high ones, she said flatly. Then maybe, he paused, maybe you don't have to. He moved gently, slowly, always letting her see what he meant to do. When she gave the faintest nod, he scooped her up, careful as lifting glass, and carried her to the wide window near gate 50. She was light, too light, but solid in his arms. And for a moment, the world stilled again. Together, they watched the plane take off. Its engines roared like something ancient waking from sleep. Ivy didn't blink. I used to like the sound, she whispered. Before, when I could feel it in my toes. Eli tightened his grip just a little. Ivy, a voice called sharply from behind. They turned. A tall woman in navy heels and a sharp coat strode toward them, flanked by an assistant with a phone to her ear. The woman froze when she saw Eli holding Ivy, her face unreadable, her voice controlled. Ivy, she said again more softly this time. Ivy's expression changed. Not fear, not joy, just a quiet return to a world she'd built walls around. Eli gently set her down. She okay? He asked. The woman looked at him then, not just at him, through him, and for a flicker, something faltered in her polished calm. She's fine, thank you. Ivy looked up. This is Eli and Noah. Camilla Hartwell blinked once. Well, thank you for keeping her company. Her voice was smooth as silk, distant as fog. Eli nodded, unsure. Noah waved. Bye, spaceship girl. Ivy lifted her hand in return, her fingers twitching in a wave. Then she turned her chair and followed her mother away. Eli and Noah walked back to their gate, the moment already folding into memory. Dad. Yeah. I liked her. Me too. Noah leaned into his side again. The drawing, now crumpled, rested in Eli's back pocket. Somewhere far behind them, Ivy opened her fist and stared at the pink juice box straw. Something in her chest fluttered like lift against gravity. And somewhere even farther above them, another plane took off into the soft winter sky. Unseen but not unfelt, the jet roared overhead, carving through clouds like a silver seamstress through silk. Camilla Hartwell didn't flinch. She simply sipped her black coffee, watching the sky through a wall of tinted glass, her office perched like a control tower above it all. She'd once loved that sound, the thunder of takeoff, the trembling of her bones when an engine screamed to life. Now it barely grazed her. Below her, the airport pulsed in quiet rhythm. People boarded, departed, arrived. A choreography of movement she'd spent a lifetime mastering. Every delay, every gate change, every passenger complaint passed through systems she'd built and shaped. And still, her daughter had sat alone. She turned from the window and faced the screen again. The security footage was paused mid-frame. A man knelt beside a girl in a wheelchair, holding her carefully as he lifted her toward the window. Her hair, dark and wispy, blew softly from the engine's echo. The look on her face was unreadable, caught somewhere between memory and discovery. Camilla clicked play again. The man's touch was gentle, not pitiful, not panicked, simply sure. And Ivy, her Ivy, had leaned into him like she used to lean into her father. Camilla hadn't meant to miss her daughter's arrival. There had been a storm in Montreal, a last-minute investor call, the usual collisions of time and urgency. She'd sent her assistant to meet Ivy, like she had before, like they always did. But Ivy had waited, alone, again, and some stranger had stepped in where Camilla hadn't. She hit pause. His name wasn't on record, just a boarding pass. Eli Mercer, Flight 290 to Denver. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard. She could order a background check. It would take 15 minutes. But she didn't press enter. Instead, she reached for her daughter's pink gloves, folded beside a half-empty juice box Ivy had left on the seat of the black sedan. The gloves were soft, worn at the edges. Camilla pressed them to her lips. The door opened behind her with a gentle knock. Her assistant's voice uncertain. "Ma'am, there's something else." Camilla turned. She received a letter, the assistant said, holding out an envelope. Airport staff found it in her chair pocket. "We didn't notice until just now." She took it. The handwriting was childlike, uneven. A crayon drawing of stars decorated the back. Camilla opened it slowly. "Dear spaceship girl, you don't look broken. You look like a superhero. This is your spaceship. You can name it anything. I hope we see you again. Noah, the boy who draws." Camilla closed her eyes. The letter pressed against her chest, as if it might anchor something long adrift inside her. She didn't cry. She never cried. Instead, she walked into Ivy's room that evening without knocking. The child sat by the window in silence, her chair angled slightly toward the horizon. She didn't turn when her mother entered. "Do you know what time it is?" Camilla asked gently. Ivy's fingers traced slow circles on the armrest. "The sky doesn't have a bedtime." Camilla crossed the room, sat on the edge of the bed, beside the pink blanket she hadn't picked out. "I saw the video," she said, voice quiet. "At the airport." Ivy didn't answer, just kept watching the fading light. "I should have been there," Camilla added. "That's on me." Ivy turned finally, her face calm but ancient in a way only children who've waited too long become. "He said I was still brave," she whispered. "Even now, with the chair." Camilla swallowed the lump in her throat. "He didn't say it like he felt sorry," Ivy added. "He said it like it was just true." There was a silence between them. Heavy, but not sharp, like the pause after a story's end, before the last page is turned. "Do you know his name?" Camilla asked. "I heard the boy say it." "Eli." Camilla nodded. "Eli Mercer." Ivy looked at her. "Can we see him again?" The question landed like snowfall, unexpected, quiet, unrelenting. Camilla looked away. "Maybe." The next morning, she sat alone in her office once more. The world below her spun on, cold and precise. But something inside her had begun to shift. She didn't call security. She didn't run a search. Instead, she pulled up an application from months ago. A technician named Eli Mercer had applied for a position in a smaller hangar out west. He'd been overlooked. Too many applicants. Not enough time. Camilla reread his words on the form. "I like fixing things people forgot were worth fixing." She closed the laptop and stared out the window again. Outside, a plane took off, its shadow chasing across the tarmac like a loyal ghost. That night, Ivy left her own note on the table. Just a few words, scribbled in green marker. "Next time, I want to fly with someone who sees the stars." Camilla read it twice. And then, quietly, she began to look for a way to make that happen. Snow fell that morning like quiet forgiveness. Slow, steady, clinging to the eaves of the old rental house where Eli Mercer was teaching his son how to fold paper wings. "Edges straight," he murmured, guiding Noah's small fingers. "Crease firm. Like this." The boy nodded solemnly, tongue poking out the corner of his mouth, trying hard to get it just right. His paper was blue, with little star stickers already pressed to the wings. "What should we name this one?" Noah asked. Eli looked out the frost-lined window, with a wind curled like breath through pine trees. "How about Polaris?" he said softly. "The one that doesn't move." Noah nodded, like a guardian star. They had made a ritual of this now. Each morning, a new plane. Each evening, they launched it off the porch, bundled in layers into the cold wind. Some drifted into the woods. Some fell to the snow. A few they mailed with hand-drawn notes to strangers pulled from old postcards and maps. One, just one, had gone to a girl in the airport with the pink gloves. Noah had insisted. Eli hadn't argued. He still thought about her sometimes, how she sat so still, how her voice sounded like it was learning to trust again, How she called him brave just for seeing her. He didn't know her last name, didn't know where she lived, but he remembered her eyes, and the way Noah whispered that night as they drove home under a sky of silver stars. I hope she got our letter. She had. Ivy held it every night now, creased and worn, tucked under her pillow like a secret. She read it twice before bed, and once again when she woke. Sometimes she imagined a second page had been there, one that said something even softer. She had drawn her own paper plane. Pink stars. A constellation drawn from memory. It didn't fly, but she kept it anyway. Camilla noticed. Of course she did, but she didn't comment, not at first. Instead, she watched her daughter grow quieter in a different way, less closed, more thoughtful. Ivy began to hum again, began to ask questions. Have you ever ridden in a cargo plane? Can birds get jet lag? If someone gets hired to fix planes, can they pick where they work? Camilla answered gently, then stayed up long after Ivy fell asleep, staring at her laptop with something like hesitation. She still hadn't contacted Eli Mercer, still hadn't responded to the letter, still hadn't decided what she wanted to offer, and why it mattered so much. But she remembered the way he had carried her daughter, the way Ivy had smiled without realizing it. So she sent an email, just a quiet line to a regional director. A question: do we have any open slots in maintenance at Eagle Point Field? Weeks later, in a house edged in frost, Eli opened a letter addressed not to Mr. Mercer, but to E. Mercer, aircraft technician. No fancy logo, no explanation, just an offer. Entry level? Sure, but real. He stared at it for a long time. Noah peeked over his shoulder. Does this mean we're going? Eli hesitated. Maybe. Will we see her again? Eli folded the letter. I don't know, buddy. But something inside him stirred, something that had been asleep a long while. At Eagle Point, the air was thinner, crisper. Planes came in low over the trees, engines sighing like wind through old chapel rafters. The first morning, Eli stood under the belly of a turboprop, grease on his knuckles, watching frost melt off the wing. It felt right in his bones, hands on metal, mind quiet, purpose settling like a weight that finally fit. Noah started at a nearby school, paper planes tucked into his lunchbox. He made friends quickly, told him about a girl who knew stars and didn't need legs to fly. Ivy didn't know they were there. Not yet. She spent most of her afternoons in the terminal cafe, bundled in her scarf, sipping cocoa that always cooled too fast. Camilla had opened her schedule, 1 hour each day, no calls, no meetings, just time. Ivy used it to sit at gate 47B again, her favorite. Sometimes she drew. Sometimes she watched the clouds change shape and whispered made-up names for them. One afternoon, she looked up from her sketch pad. He was there, across the hall, bent over a toolkit, cap low over his eyes, hands wrapped around the same quiet strength she remembered. Her heart tripped over itself. Noah saw her first. Dad, he whispered. That's her. Eli turned slowly, and Ivy smiled like she had been holding her breath for a season and finally let go. They didn't rush. They didn't run. They simply met in the middle. I kept your letter, she said. I hoped you did. Noah held out a new drawing. This one was of 3 people and a plane made of stars. Eli looked toward the cafe. Camilla stood behind the glass, coffee in hand, eyes soft. She didn't approach. Not yet. Just watched. But she was smiling. That evening, Ivy folded her first real plane. Eli showed her how to crease the wings. Noah added pink stars. Camilla lit the porch light as dusk fell. They launched it together. It caught wind, drifted high, higher than any of them expected, and somewhere between the cold sky and the warm earth below, something mended. The wind moved gently through the terminal's glass corridor, rattling a strand of tinsel someone had forgotten to take down after New Year's. Outside, the tarmac glowed soft with amber light. A single-engine plane sat quietly beneath the weight of morning mist, its silver skin catching the sunrise like a half-remembered dream. Inside, Ivy sat near the window in her chair, sketchpad open, pink gloves beside her cocoa. She wasn't drawing today, just waiting. She did that sometimes now, not with the restlessness of someone lacking something, but with the calm expectancy of someone who knows what's missing is on its way. Noah was due any minute. He always was. Her eyes tracked movement past gate 49. Eli was down there, bent over a toolbox, his cap tilted forward, face hidden by focus. He had that way about him. Like the world narrowed when he worked, everything else falling to a hush. Ivy smiled, turned a page, and began to draw his hands. A few feet away, Camilla watched it unfold to the cafe's glass. No conference calls today. No crisis meetings. Just a quiet latte and the slow warmth of something she stopped believing she'd ever earn back. Time. Eli had never asked for anything. And maybe that's why she found herself wanting to give something. The first dinner invitation had been an accident. Ivy's idea, really. He can fix the porch light, she'd said. You've been saying it flickers. So she invited them. They came, muddy boots and star drawings and all. One dinner turned into 3, then into weekends, then into something you didn't call anything, but everyone felt it just the same. At the table, Ivy taught Noah how to fold napkins into airplanes. Eli always brought pie. Camilla, once unsure how to be still, began to lean against counters while the kitchen filled with laughter and the scent of cinnamon. He never touched her at first, never reached for her hand or lingered too long. But sometimes, when Ivy laughed with her whole body, he'd look at Camilla like he was seeing her again for the first time. She'd look away, but only just. Months passed like wind over the wings, felt but not seen. The porch light got fixed. So did the fence. And Camilla's voice, once brittle with precision, grew softer with pauses, like she learned the music of silence. They sat on that porch one night, the kids asleep inside, stars blinking through the fog. Eli held a mug of coffee, fingers calloused and sure. She sat beside him, legs tucked under her, hair pulled back in a loose twist. You ever miss a noise? She asked. What noise? The one you left behind. He smiled without looking at her. Sometimes, but it never listened back. She nodded. I know what you mean. And that was all, until one night, when the air turned colder and the silence between them stretched too long to ignore. Camilla turned to him, her voice low. I never meant for her to wait alone. Eli didn't respond at first, just watched the way the steam rose from his cup and disappeared. She doesn't anymore, he finally said. There was no touch, no sudden closeness, just a truth, sitting quiet between them like an extra breath. Weeks later, Ivy rolled into the hangar on a Saturday morning. Eli and Noah were working on a prop plane's wing. Music played low from a radio. Old soul, warm like molasses. She handed him something folded. It was a paper plane, edges sharp, stars drawn in pink. It's yours now, she said. Eli turned it over. On the wing was a single word, home. He looked up. Camilla stood behind her, lips parted like she meant to say something. But she didn't. She didn't have to. Later that night, after the kids had fallen asleep on the couch, surrounded by crayons and pie crumbs, Camilla walked him to the porch. The air smelled like pine smoke and melting snow. I was afraid, she said suddenly. Eli tilted his head. Of letting someone in who didn't need me be perfect. You don't need to be, he said gently. You just need to be real. She reached out, touched his hand, for the first time. He didn't pull away. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Inside, Ivy's sketchbook sat open on the table, a new drawing beginning. The next morning, they all stood at the edge of the runway, wrapped in coats and scarves, watching the sun rise behind a curtain of silver cloud. Eli held Ivy's chair handle. Camilla stood beside him. Noah launched the plane Ivy had made, its wings catching the golden light, cutting a trail toward the sky. It flew, longer than any of them expected, and when it finally dipped, tumbling into the far grass, Ivy whispered, Still counts. Camilla laughed. Eli smiled. They all stood there, quiet, warm in the cold. No more departures. No more waiting. Only arrival. If this story touched you, subscribe or share where you're watching from. These stories matter.